on that note of activism, a lot of activism tends to be about blame. It tends to be laced with the energy of blame and the language of blame, the rhetoric of blame. And it's about tearing down the building. So there's a lot of attack that happens in activism. But even, you know, the so-called non-violent activism, which is, you know, I'm glad that we've made that transition, that marches are peaceful and you know, unless you're in France, you know, there's definitely been unmistakably a great movement towards non-physically violent activism in the world. And the thing that we identify as activism was usually lots of people out in the street, right? But anger, absolutely, there's a lot to be angry about. But anger and attack and blame are two completely separate things. You know, I want to be, I hope everyone is angry about the destruction of our environment. It's killing people. Australia's on fire and people have died, and, you know, we should be scared. Being scared means you're waking up to what's going on, and angry. That does not mean attack. Look, I know for me that I've put a lot of energy over my life that, you know, being mad at corporations and corporations are bad, or this aspect of capitalism is bad, or etc. And if I really pay attention to my voice, I feel like in that mode, I'm a teenager. And really in my body, I feel straight away the connection to how I would fight with my father as a teenager, that I so passionately resented his authoritarian ways, his refusal to listen to my side, his imposition of his, you know, worldview, which felt completely poisonous to me. And so I got caught up in trying to tear down and bring down my dad as the sort of the looming male that was blocking out the sunlight for me. And I mean, and I'm a little sad about that as I say it, because I also love my dad profoundly. And he's gone now. He's been gone for about 7 or 8 years. But that has stayed within me, and I'm still, I can feel this sort of adolescent pleasure at pointing the finger and saying bad. And I think that aspect of activism is undermining, it's polarizing, it's exacerbating the polarization of our positions. Because people that are identified and associated with that kind of that 1% or whatever you want to call that, with the corporations or the people that seem to be the holders of power in our society, they just dig their heels in. They feel persecuted, attacked, they get angry, they fight back. There's a sort of equal and opposite force that keeps us stuck in this tug of war. You know, it's not effective. And, I do feel like I need to have a different kind of conversation with the inner teenager in me. That it has opened up something else. I'm still angry, but I'm putting a lot of my energy is I'm less likely to target individuals, or I no longer even see the corporation as the source of all evil. You know, it's become clear to me that the corporation is an expression of us.
Sure.
It's an expression of us. It's an expression of me. And I'm keeping that thing alive by fighting it, instead of just putting creative, forcefully creative energy into creating the new, building the new world that is incompatible with what we have right now, that is threatening us with the extinction. look, I don't know if I've made that clear, but it feels important that we bring a loving ear to our own quality of activism. Where is this coming from? Am I really the good guy here that is trying to bring down the bad guy? Really? Or is there something else going on here? Right? Yeah. And in fact, what's the part of me that would act exactly the same as the chief executive officer if I was in that role? What's the part of me that is potentially psychopathic? I need to own up to that. That's why, it's not only, as you were saying earlier on, about finding the language that won't trigger the holders of power so that we can get our new legislations through for better parenting and breastfeeding and whatever you like. It's also about asking good questions. When somebody gets in the way of better legislation, let's look at that example you brought up earlier on of workplace breastfeeding, and the powers that be are sticks in the mud and they're getting in the way and they don't want to make it possible and they're sabotaging, etc., etc. And we get frustrated. We start to think that they're bad people and why they're so selfish, and there is corruption in the system, lots of it. But what if we begin to ask questions, not only find better language, because that is important, but ask questions to include the other person that is our so-called enemy in questions. Why is it important to you? What do you feel about this legislation? What worries you about the legislation that I'm pushing for? What does it make you feel? In my experience, the people that are against better parenting legislation, like, supporting breastfeeding in the workplace, or, support for parental leave, paid parental leave, like they have all over Europe and parts of South America. The people that are in the way of that, they've got their own inner child, just like I do and you. A lot of what's coming up for people is guilt. You say to somebody, we need more breastfeeding, and inside they're thinking, hang on a minute, and they're not even conscious of it, but their body is saying, hang on a minute, I was only breastfed for 6 weeks. Are you telling me that I'm going to be sick? Are you telling me I'm going to get cancer? That's making me really anxious right now. I'm going to sabotage you. Get out of my office. Or something even more. You come into my office and I'm the person in government and you're saying, I want breastfeeding legislation now. I'm going, well, I'm a mother. I didn't breastfeed my child. I couldn't, whatever. My life didn't make that possible. I was told it didn't matter. Whatever the story is, or I was sick, or it didn't work, whatever the story is, I didn't like it, there's so many things that go wrong with breastfeeding. I was raped when I was 17. I don't want people grabbing at my breast. I can't stand it. It freaks me out. Right. So I didn't breastfeed. You've just brought in the legislation that's triggering me like 1,000 alarm bells about guilt. If I say yes to you, it's going to make me accept that I've damaged my child. You know what? No. Denial, get out of my room. So everyone's got their inner child triggered all over the place, and we make policy, or the lack of policy, mostly driven by that.
I'm going to quote you on that too, Robin. That was great.
We make please do.
Policy based on our inner child's needs.
We mostly do. The sooner we wake up to that, the sooner we're out of this mess. Yeah. The sooner that we wake up to, my God. Okay, George Lakoff. If you haven't, look at his YouTubes. He's a professor of sociology and wonderful researcher, wonderful speaker. He's so much fun to listen to. I forgot what university. He's an American university. years of research, sociological research about why people vote. And you think you vote for this policy or that policy. Bullshit. Majority of people don't even know what the policies, the goddamn policies. We don't know them, or even if you know them, you don't understand them.
Yeah.
We vote for people because, oh, that person reminds me more of my family, and I like their voice, the way they dress, you know, their manner reminds me more of the people that I'm, you know, my homies.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for that dude or that woman.
Mm-hmm.
And from now on, they could shoot a child in the main street and I'll still vote for them anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're like my mum and dad. Most voting comes from there. This guy's research, I'll give you one little example, gave people, tons of people, this test about the kind of parenting that you come from. People that come from very democratic styles of parenting,
Mm-hmm.
by that, I don't mean that your parents told you who to vote for. I don't mean the Democratic Party. I mean parents that listen to you and let you have a voice. They didn't let you have whatever you want, but they will give you a voice, let you have a say. And they don't punish and shame you. People that come from that style of parenting will tend to vote much more towards democracy and no war and better gun control. These are tendencies, but they're very powerful tendencies. People that come from what George Lakoff calls a strict father model, that authoritarian parents. And if you haven't worked through the authoritarianism of your parents, so that, you know, you do as you're told or else, right? That style of parenting. Those people vote for the authoritarian leaders.
Sure. Yeah.
It doesn't really, you think you're voting because of what the authoritarian leader says, you know, about the economics or this or that. No, we're just full of these reactions, the inner child reactions that make us choose partners, politicians, who to work for, who we fall in love with. And then the head makes a rationale for why we made that choice. That choice was made in the inner child place. Most of the time, you know, is that a little bit chilling? It should be.
Yeah.
You know, that the sooner we come to terms with that, the sooner we can get out of this mess, because the children, it's not the children, the wounded children are driving the direction of the planet.
The wounded
The
children.
wounded children in all of us, the wounded children in the body of an adult who's not listening to the wounded inner child,
Yeah.
let alone the healthy inner child.
Yeah.
We're not listening to the child inside at all. That's why the child, wounded and otherwise, is got control of the airship and is driving it chaotically off the edge of a cliff.
Mm.
So you betcha this is a political activism book without being a political activism book.